My name is Paula Levitt, and I am helping to organize our Global Career Development Series. We are very excited to have Ellison Weeks back with the Global Learning Hub, presenting the second part of his LinkedIn demo on maximizing your global career search. We also were really happy to have Ellison last year with our first annual Global Learning Conference. And we would encourage you to save the date for that, which is going to be in April. I can send a follow-up email. So thank you for coming today. Just to let you know, the chat box is open. And if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box, or we will also have a chance to unmute yourself throughout and at the end to ask questions as well. So before I introduce Ellison, I'm just going to go through a little bit about what the Global Learning Hub is. This is a unit of global affairs at UC Davis that is both a virtual as well as physical space for students to find out about global learning opportunities around campus, in the region, and across the world. It is the unit that hosts our study abroad, global internships and research, community engagement, and skills and leadership. And so we're very excited to have you here again as part of the career development series. And hopefully you will learn a couple of tidbits. Every time I hear from Ellison, I learn a little bit more about things to do to improve my own LinkedIn profile. And then at the end, we will come back for questions. So right now, I will pass it over to Ellison, who's going to share his screen and introduce himself.
Awesome. Thank you, Paula, and hello, good afternoon, everyone. For those of you experiencing the power outage, hang in there. Hopefully power will come back on soon. I'm actually calling in from Oakland, so I'm not too far from where you are. We have some crazy wind, lots of fallen trees, but luckily the power is still on. So I'm going to share my screen and then we'll get started. Because we have a fairly intimate group, I'm hoping that this can be more of a conversation versus like a typical webinar, although I do have a lot of slides to go through, but feel free in the chat to drop questions in, comments. This is definitely a safe space, and we're all learning about LinkedIn, we're all learning about career development, myself included. So no question is too basic. And then Paula, if you can release the sharing, I can pull up my PowerPoint. Thank you. So let me find the deck. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, you should see maximizing your global career search. Is that showing up okay, Paul?
Yes, it is. If you just make it full screen.
Yeah. Okay. It'll take a second to populate. My computer's a little tired today, so.
There we go.
All right. So again, my name is Ellison. Today we'll be talking all about LinkedIn and how you can really use the platform to power your job search efforts and your networking efforts. A little bit about myself. So although I'm currently working in tech as a customer success manager with LinkedIn's learning solutions team. So I work on the LinkedIn Learning product line. Previously, I worked in international education primarily, working with students who wanted to study in the US on various programs, and then also working with programs that sent American students, particularly those from underserved communities, on experiences abroad. So I have a fair amount of experience in the global corporate world and also in the global education space. And these are just some pictures from different roles that I've had. This is when I was a teacher in Japan on the Japan Exchange Teaching Program. This was a site visit at the BBC, one of my accounts in the UK. And then this was a student recruitment trip in Osaka, Japan. But enough about me. Let's dive into LinkedIn. that's what you came here for. And this is our agenda for the session. We'll talk a little bit about what LinkedIn and what is and what distinguishes it from other social media platforms, talk through how you can build your professional network, how you can put that network to use, how you can apply for jobs. And then if we have time, I want to also give you a live demo of some of the features that we're going to talk about. So part of the assumption here is that everyone on the call already has a LinkedIn profile, even if it's a basic one, that's fine. So I'm going to skip over the ins and outs of like how to build a profile. We did a session on that, as Paula mentioned previously. And Paula, I believe there's a recording that folks can reference if they want to see some tips on like how to build out your profile. But for today we're talking about networking. So a bit of a refresher on LinkedIn. It is a social media site that's dedicated to professionals, right? So it's a bit different from Facebook or Snapchat or Instagram, where let's say you had a passion for traveling, right? On these platforms, these are some of the ways that you might communicate to your friends or your network, your interest or your passion for traveling, right? You might show photos of traveling, you might listen to travel-related music on Spotify, etc. But on LinkedIn, this is an opportunity to talk about that subject from a professional lens and put your professional hat on. So you may talk about your professional aspirations when it comes to travel. You may talk about experience that you have working in the travel industry, right? As opposed to, I like to travel, or here's a cool photo I took in Madagascar, right? So that's one distinction I just wanted to remind everyone on the call. That's what sets LinkedIn apart from other social media platforms. So the way LinkedIn works is it's powered by professionals and their networks, right? And a network is all the folks that you know personally and professionally. Just some high-level stats about the power and reach of the LinkedIn platform. So we currently have, and this is actually outdated, I think we have closer to like 720, 730 million professionals who are on the platform and engaging with others. We have 50 million employers who are represented on the platform globally, and they have between them have millions and millions of job openings at their companies and organizations, internships, all kinds of stuff. And then we have just shy of 3 million groups, again, globally on the platform. And these are opportunities, if you join these groups and interact with folks in those groups, there are opportunities for you to grow your community as well. So that's just a quick look at the power and reach of the platform. And I think for me, when I look at this and I'm putting on my job search hat, this underscores why it's important to have a presence on LinkedIn and how you can really use the platform to connect to opportunity, not just in your immediate area, but around the world. So just a quick fact about LinkedIn, about 9 out of every 10 employers are using LinkedIn at some point during the hiring process. So whether that's to find talent, or if people are applying to roles, to vet talent and look at them and you know, just kind of get a sense of like who you are as a professional, what's your professional persona. The vast majority of employers, small and large, are turning to LinkedIn to identify and source talent. So that's something that you all should keep in mind as you're going about your job search. Just a little fun fact. So with that context set, let's set our sights on, you've got this cool profile, you learned a little bit about the power and reach of LinkedIn, but how do you actually go about building a professional network? And this is really the glue that holds LinkedIn together. So what we're going to talk about, you can see there, we're going to talk about how to build it, how do you find connections in your existing circles, how do you build new connections, and then how can you be thoughtful about the ways that you grow your network? Okay, so when we talk about networking, I just want to, in the way that we think about networking on LinkedIn is we have first, second, and third degree folks in our network. So first degree people, these are the people in your immediate circles. These may be classmates, these could be coworkers, it could be family and friends. These are people that you have a direct connection to. As you can see here, let's say this is Isabel, right? So in Isabel's immediate network, we can see that she has these 3 connections, which is great. They may have opportunities that they can connect her to. They may be able to give her advice. But if we look out further to Isabel's second degree connections, these are all the people that know the folks in her first degree, right? So in this zone here, these are her first degree, and these are her second degree folks. So with LinkedIn, what's cool is that you can see not only who, let's say this is Jessica, you can see not only who, you're connected to Jessica, but you can see who Jessica knows. And maybe Jessica knows someone who is in an industry that you're curious about. And so you can reach out to Jessica and say, hey, I see that you know Bob, and Bob is a photojournalist. That's a passion of mine, or that's a field that I want to go into. Would you be willing to make a connection or introduction? Or maybe you just reach out to Bob directly and you say, hey, like I see you're connected to my colleague Jessica, and you're doing this cool photojournalism work. Would love to learn more about your background, right? So without a platform like LinkedIn, you actually have no idea potentially who Jessica is who else she's connected to. But we're going to provide you with that information so that you can expand the potential reach and outreach that you're doing as you build out your own network. And when we get to the job search section, we'll talk about why that's important, that you don't just look at your first degree, but you also consider this broader cone of folks who you may be able to leverage to power your own career development. And then we can see that beyond the second degree, there's also all these third degree folks. So these are folks who are connected to, what was her name? Isabel, Jessica, 3 degrees from her. By looking at these folks in the outer circle, you might uncover additional roles, industries, internship opportunities, locally and globally, that could be a good fit for you. And so what we're trying to do is just give you a sense of, what's the network that you currently have that you're aware of? Who are the folks that your connections are connected to, who could become your first degree connections? And then likewise, if we expand our view out a bit further, who are some other people potentially in your network or in your sphere that you could connect with? So you see someone in Jessica's, like one of her connections, a second degree connection for you, and you want to reach out, right? Which can be a little intimidating, to be honest, especially when you're early in your career. So how do you reach out to people that you don't know directly? Like let's say this is Dan. You don't know Dan directly, but you want to connect to Dan because you've looked at his profile, you see the industry that he's in, or maybe you see his educational background, or maybe Dan's working in a part of the world where you eventually want to work and move to. So we give you the ability to not only request a connection to Dan, but to also personalize it and customize your message so that you're letting him know, why are you reaching out to him? What kind of connection do you have, right? So you could talk about that mutual connection to Jessica. And then if there's something that maybe Dan can help you with, you can also ask in that invitation message. And so our data shows that this kind of outreach is much more likely to yield results compared to just sending a contact or a connection request without providing any context for why you're reaching out. So I highly recommend that you send a note. And you can see that the note doesn't need to be you don't need to send them an essay. In fact, we limit the amount of characters that you can include in your message. Just a short and sweet personal note to accompany your invitation is perfect. And you can see maybe what that might look like here in the example. And I'll just go back. I can tell you from experience, I'm much more likely and my job's fairly intense, fairly busy throughout the day. So if I get a note like this versus someone just reaching out to connect, I'm much more likely to respond to this because I understand, quickly I can understand who you are, why you're reaching out, and what can I do for you. So, um,
Can just echo that as well. I get requests often through LinkedIn messages, sometimes asking for informational interviews, which I'm always happy to do. And
mhm.
so usually that starts by message. So some people are just looking to connect, which I personally am not as active as I would like to be on LinkedIn with sharing articles and sharing things like that. But I have met a lot of folks through wanting to connect for informational interviews who have then later sent, job opportunities to when things come up.
Yeah, no, that's a great example. Information interviews. So as you're reaching out to people, you'll find that a lot of people are open to giving informational interviews. And for those of you on the call who are not familiar with the term, an informational interview is an interview not where you're applying or interviewing for a specific job, but it's when you want to learn something about a role or about someone's career or about an industry, right? So you're gathering information that can inform your own career path or career plans, or even if you're just exploring different career options. Those are great. So, so if we move along, we do also have a feature in your account that's designed to help you discover potentially pre-existing connections. So if you go to my network, you can see here, it's if we go to the live demo, I'll point that out, but you can go to my network and then you can see people who either maybe have similar roles to you, maybe they're also a student at Davis, maybe they also did the same study abroad program, maybe they did a similar internship. So we try and surface this information for you to help you network and to give you kind of a head start in making warm connections versus just reaching out to complete strangers. Okay. And so initially, we may surface like friends and family, like I said, current and former colleagues, as you can see here. And then as you build your network, the algorithm that powers this feature will learn more about you and it'll start to make smarter recommendations on people that you might want to connect with. So the more you engage with this feature, the more connections you make, the better we're going to be able to make stronger recommendations for you. Of course, you don't have to wait for us to suggest people for you to connect with. At any time, you can go into the platform and search for new connections. So let's say there's someone who is running a webinar and you want to reach out to them after the webinar, but you forgot their name, or you want to just check and see like what industry were they in again or something like that. You can just do a search and then it's easy to connect with people from your search results, right? You just click connect and then you can add a quick message. Now, you can also filter your results when you're searching for people. So let's say you wanted to see people that you have a second degree connection with in Dubai because you want to work in Dubai. You did a study abroad in Dubai, or you're from Dubai and you want to return to your home country at some point. And so you want to start networking with people and building your network before you return home. Then you can filter the results so that it only shows you people who have that location listed in their profile. Similarly, you can adjust the filter so that it shows people from a specific company. And then we have other filters that you can use as well to really give you a tailored search result. So highly recommend you take advantage of that as well as you get a little more sophisticated with your searching. And also just play around with it. It's a fun way to see who you might be connected to in the world without any risk, right? Because no one knows that you're searching for them. Okay, and again, we covered this, but after you click connect, you can customize the message. So sending a note. And again, let's say you just completed an internship in Japan and you find someone at a company in Japan where you want to work, and you reach out to them. And in your introductory message, I would recommend you say something about like, hey, just did this internship. I'm looking to, for the next chapter of my career to take place in Japan or at XYZ company. Would love to connect with you and maybe grab virtual coffee soon, something like that. Okay. So then, as I mentioned earlier, you want to be thoughtful and strategic about how you expand your network. So who would be a good candidate for you to reach out to connect with? So folks that you have something in common with. Maybe you both speak the same foreign language. Maybe you share the same university history, right? So maybe you studied abroad together. Maybe you did the same program in undergrad or grad school, right? Those are folks that you have a commonality with, and they're more likely to not only accept your invitation to connect, but they're more likely to have an interest in engaging with you beyond just that initial connection. Also, if there's someone and you see who they're connected to and you're really trying to get to that second person, then that's okay too. I think it's okay for you to reach out and connect with someone with the ultimate goal of connecting to who they know, because who they know is aligned to where you are trying to get to in your career or for your next opportunity. So don't be shy in that regard. Just be polite and be respectful. And I think a lot of folks who are in the professional world, they understand what career development is like, and hopefully will respond positively. And again, at the bottom, you can just see some general guidelines on what you should include in your message. Who are you? How'd you find my profile? And then more importantly, or just as important, what can I do for you, right? How can I help you as a student or as someone who's, at whatever point in your career? Let me know how I can be a resource. Okay. So here are some ideas and ways that you can use your network on the platform to connect to opportunity. So messaging folks, again, as we covered, asking for information interviews. You can also request referrals. There are a lot of roles in jobs where people are able to land the job ultimately, or at least be considered for the role through a referral. And that's something that you can do through LinkedIn as well, in addition to requesting recommendations or adding value. So, and Yasmin will get to you in one sec. So in terms of adding value, Paula mentioned, like sharing articles on the platform. So LinkedIn is not just about what you can get out of other people, right, as a professional, but you can also add value to someone. So let's say you meet with someone for an informational interview, and during that conversation, there's something that comes up that you actually read an article about a few days ago. Well, as a nice follow-up to that informational interview, you could also share that article with your contact, and that may unlock something for them, like something they didn't know. It may spark additional conversation. So there's ways that you can add value beyond just like the transaction of getting to the next place because they know somebody. And Yasmin, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, it looks like maybe you had a question or a comment.
Yes. Is it okay just to ask it?
Of course.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Yasmin, and thanks for today's speech. I'm also an international student, and I can feel how challenging it is to just reach out to people and ask for their help, which I myself personally had that challenge. I just wanted to ask if it's, I have been through this process, and what I want to know is it okay if after the first, conversation or the message, just go through the person and ask for a referral? Isn't that some awkward, or is it okay or normal?
Yeah, so requesting the referral can be a little tricky. I would say in my experience that asking for a referral from someone that you don't know or you haven't established somewhat of a relationship with is
Exactly.
is likely not going to be successful. With the referral, the person making the referral is also, when they refer you for a role, they're also saying that I know this person and I can speak to the quality of their work, or they seem like a decent person, so I'm going to refer them to the company. So that person's name is also involved in the process. Like I've referred a colleague to LinkedIn, and one of the things that they ask us is, can you vouch for this person's work, right? Like the quality of their work, or are you just sending random people into the queue for this job, which creates more work for the people who are doing running the job search. So I think something that you could do though is by building out your network and establishing a relationship. So let's say maybe you have multiple conversations with someone, then maybe by that point, they see what kind of a thinker you are. They see what kind of personality you have or your demeanor, or through the articles and things that you share through LinkedIn, they get a sense of like, oh, wow, this person is really up to date on the industry, or they're sharing really interesting content. So I think at that point, if you request a referral, you're more likely to get some success versus just doing it after connecting with them for like a day or like a week, because they don't really know you, and it's harder to make a referral for someone you really don't know, like if they're like a complete stranger.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Any other questions up until this point? Let me just check the chat. Let's see. Okay. So we can keep moving. And again, this is interactive, so this is for you. So feel free to ask questions as they come up, and we will keep moving. So this is a video. In the interest of time, let me just check the time. I'm going to skip the video, but we'll share it. We'll share the deck afterwards, and there'll be a link so you can watch it on your own. But it's a quick story about how someone was able to use LinkedIn to power their network and to land a role. Okay, so we talked about asking for informational interviews. This is an example language that you can use for requesting an informational interview. And one thing I want to point out is that it is not uncommon, so it does happen, for an informational interview to eventually lead to a job, right? So again, as part of that conversation, like with Erin, Aisha is able to demonstrate how she communicates, if she's respectful, if she has good time management, those kinds of things. That kind of comes out in the information interview process. So highly recommend, especially if you're just starting building out your network, this is a great way to do so through informational interviews. Just out of curiosity, have people on the call, has anyone requested and gotten an informational interview? It can be a little scary. Or has anyone thought about it before? Jenny has. Jenny, have you gotten one? Or are you thinking about doing it? Or
no, yeah, I received one, and I also like reached out for information interviews myself.
okay, was it helpful, and did you find the experience helpful or scary? Or
It's definitely intimidating at first. I think like mine's I the first time I did it, it was definitely intimidating. Just you don't know what to say at first. But I guess yeah, like with definitely what you've been saying, like over time, it does get like easier when you ask about like like the industry and like the careers that could possibly one could be able to like learn more about. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was scary for me at first too, but with practice, it becomes easier, and it's it's a really great just way to collect information about a role or a company or an industry, and then you can start to put that information to use.
Ellison, can I add something too?
Yeah.
It's better to start networking and reaching out for informational interviews before there's a job posting. Oftentimes, once a job is posted and you're like, I want to apply for this job, can we have an informational interview? It's a little bit too late at that point sometimes, especially once a job is posted. There can be some restrictions as far as who you're allowed to talk to about the job, if it has to go through HR. So it's best to have these informational interviews sometimes, in my opinion, and maybe others have other opinions, but before an actual job is even posted.
Yeah, I would say so. And love the comment here from Andrea about her experience with information interviews and granting those requests. I think when I've requested them, it's been a great way to practice my self-introduction and my pitch. Of even if you're not applying for a job, like I said, sometimes the person is aware of job opportunities at their company, for example, even if you're not. And if they have a really positive experience with you, even though they're not interviewing you for a role, I've seen and experienced where an information interview done well can lead to a job opportunity. So when you have to introduce yourself succinctly, that can be challenging. But by requesting information interviews and going on them, you can flex that muscle and develop that skill. So I can't stress enough like how useful of a tool it can be. And if you want to just steal this template here or tweak it for yourself, by all means, go ahead and do so. Okay, this is an example of how you can request a referral, right? So here's some tips on like what you want to include in that. And here's I think a polite and respectful way to do that without being demanding, all right? So again, feel free to use these as like starting templates for yourself, and you can build out your own referral and informational interview request templates. Here's an example of how you can request recommendations through LinkedIn. So once you've connected with folks, then, and let's say you've worked on projects together, or they're a coworker, then you can start to, or even a professor, right? Or maybe it's like your study abroad coordinator. You can request recommendations from them as well. And here's some examples of other folks who you might want to get recommendations from. And it looks like there was a question that came in. Paula, do you see was it a question or a comment or?
The question, I'll read it. It says, I sent a message to a recruiter that I met at a career fair, but I did not get a response. What do you think the reason might be?
Yeah, so great question. So one, it's likely that the recruiter super busy, I would imagine. So if you met them at a fair, they're probably getting a lot of outreach following the fair, and it's possible that your message got lost in the shuffle. And so that does happen. It can happen with hiring managers. It can happen with recruiters. And my advice to you would be to reach out to them again, politely, and just check it in. Hey, following up on my previous note, and then you can add something to your message there. And just keep in mind that the recruiters are managing outreach from a lot of people, and so it may take just a little bit of extra effort to stand out in that crowd.
I would totally agree with you there. If you're saying, we met at a fair and I have another question, as opposed to, we met at a fair, I really loved hearing from you when you said this, this, and this. It made me think about how I this, and this. And then kind of follow up from there. But also, not everybody is going to reply, even if they're not busy. That's just the reality. And so that's the benefit of having a larger network, is that you can have multiple opportunities to reach out to folks, and somebody will.
Yeah. And you might also have, the recruiter might follow, or someone might follow up with you like a couple months later, right? They may clean out their inbox and go, oh my God, I forgot to reply to this person. Because that, let me tell you, that definitely happens also. So I wouldn't get discouraged. I would just remain persistent and polite in your correspondence. So here's some examples of ways that you can add value with folks in your network. So again, connecting with people and then engaging with them. Information interviews, sharing content, liking their content, commenting on their content. So like if someone posts an article or posts like an update about their role, you know, when you comment on that, people in their network will see your comment. So if you're commenting and engaging intelligently with your contacts or your connections content, then that can also lead to other connections that you weren't even aware of. Again, joining groups, maybe giving recommendations to other people, to classmates, to coworkers. Those are all ways that you can add value. So we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about job searching. And you can see here some of the sections that we're going to cover, things like how do you create an alert? How do you let recruiters know you're open to work? So let's dive right in. So first, fun fact, every week there are 34 million plus job seekers who come to LinkedIn. So we have a very unique insight into the world of work, not just here in the US, but globally. And this gives you a sense of just how central the platforms become to job searching and job hunting. So we recently added a feature that would allow you to let people know that you're open to new roles. So then recruiters, they have a slightly different version of LinkedIn, and they can go in and say, okay, I'm at Microsoft, let's say, and I'm looking to fill this role in this part of the world, and I'm looking for people who have these skills. Well, if you change your status so that shows that you're open to work, that will also change how you show up in a recruiter's search. Okay, so this is a great tool to start to use. And it's actually beyond just for recruiters, you can indicate other things that you're open to. And we'll go over that in the demo in a second. But yeah, so you can also add these details like specific jobs you're looking for. Again, let's say you want to work in Spain and you want recruiters in Spain or people who are filling roles in that part of the world. You want them to know, like, I'm open to relocating. And so you can indicate that in your this feature. You can see a little animation here. You can also search for jobs, right? So in the same way that you can search for new connections, if you go to the jobs tab here, we also have an extremely versatile job search function. So you can search by keyword, title. These are ways that you can filter the results as well. When it was posted, what part of the world is the job in? So I highly encourage you to use these to your advantage so that we can give you the best, most tailored results, as opposed to you just doing a generic search and then you're seeing a bunch of results that are not relevant to what you're looking for. By using the filters, you'll get much better recommendations. Once you start to search for jobs, you can also create alerts. So let's say that you're not quite sure, you know that you want to move to Brazil, right? After you finish your undergrad or your grad degree program. You know the industry, but you're not quite sure like what city in Brazil you want to work in. So maybe you just do a job search that's general to Brazil in construction, for example. But you don't know what city. You can set an alert, and then all the jobs that fit that criteria, so construction and also just throughout Brazil, we will send you alerts when jobs get posted that meet those criteria. And so you can do that in a number of different ways. Let's say you have a job search that ticks off like all these different filters. You set an alert anytime a job gets added to the platform, and you saw how many millions of jobs get added on a regular basis. Anytime a job fits those criteria, we will send you an alert. And the alert, I believe they're either like push notification, like on your device, or you can also get email alerts. And you can see how you can customize that down here. And then you can also customize the frequency. So if you feel like, God, I'm getting so many alerts, like it's too much, you can change the cadence here as well.
We have a question, and Yasmin, we might need you to clarify, but the question is, how comprehensive are the job postings on LinkedIn versus ones that we get on emails?
So the posting, if I'm understanding the question correctly.
So let me just explain. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I mean, how comprehensive the job postings are. I mean, is LinkedIn kind of listing everything everywhere?
they're pretty, so you mean like, are we capturing all the possible job opportunities?
Quite, yeah.
Or perhaps like, I guess another way to ask that question, Ellison, is are the jobs posted on LinkedIn ones that recruiters post there, or do you pull from Monster and Indeed and other databases to create your database?
So we don't pull from other sites. Like we don't pull from Indeed or any of those, Glassdoor or those platforms. But from what I've seen and from what our data shows, like we have the largest database of job opportunities that are posted. So what is likely to be the case though is that, let's say I'm looking for like an intern, or I'm looking for like someone to join my company. I may post on LinkedIn, and I may also list the job on my company's website, and I may also post it on Indeed. So I'm going to post it in a few different places. I don't necessarily think that companies only post on LinkedIn, but most of them definitely have a posting on LinkedIn plus on another site.
Yasmin, does that answer your question? I didn't want to rephrase it if that was not where you're going.
Yeah, sort of. Yes, I got my answer. Thank you.
And then as for the job posting itself, from what I've seen, they're fairly similar in terms of the level of detail between what you see on LinkedIn and what you might see on Indeed, because the company may have a template and then they push it out to different sites. I think the difference with our platform is that you can see, so in the example here, like team lead, not only are we going to show you the job posting, but we're going to show you if you have connections who work at this company. And so that's a way they go, oh, like Susie works at, what is this, Andiamo. I'm going to reach out to Susie. Maybe she can tell me about the company culture, or she can tell me about, maybe she knows about that division that's hiring, and I can get some intel about the job, the company, the requirements, that sort of thing. And that's kind of what sets us apart from like an Indeed, where you're just, seeing the job, but we're giving you some additional ways to approach it. Does that help to fully answer your question? Was there any other? Let's see the chats. Okay. I think we answered it. So I'm going to move forward. And another way that you can find out about jobs is to follow companies. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we've got millions of companies with a presence on LinkedIn, and they often, as you can see here in their page, they have a section for jobs, and you can just see like, oh, these are all the jobs at Starbucks. So that's another good way to just kind of browse and see what jobs, maybe it's like your dream company, so you can see what kind of jobs they have open. And they update that pretty regularly as well. And then as it says here, if you want to learn about like the company culture, check out Life, and they have like videos and like different employee testimonials, those kinds of things. We also have a feature called Easy Apply. So you can see that here. We want to make it easier and less full of friction for you to apply for a role. Traditionally, applying for jobs takes a lot of time and can be a little cumbersome. So we've introduced features that will allow you to apply directly from LinkedIn. So you can click Easy Apply, and there's a quick flow that you'll work through. Okay. All right.
Allison, there's a question in the chat that asks, on the job alerts, is it possible to also filter for a number of years of experience that a job is looking for? For example, a recent graduate has set up job alerts, but they often see jobs that require 5 to 8 years of experience.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue to go into the live demo. So bear with me a second. I'm going to switch to Google Chrome, and then we'll take a look.
And while he does that, if you have any other questions, please feel free to continue putting them away in the chat box. And if it's appropriate, we can address them in the live demo.
Okay. So I'm gonna come to that question in a second, but I just wanted to point out, like, if I go to my profile, then that open to feature that I mentioned is here. And so here are a few of the different ways that you can use this feature. If you're trying to hire someone, you can use it that way. You're open to hiring XYZ candidates. If you want to grow your audience, if you have services that you want to provide, like maybe you do translation, right? Those kinds of services, you can also use that feature here too. But a lot of folks use the, like, I'm open to finding a new job, and this will show recruiters that you're open to that. So if I go to jobs, and then can someone give me a job or an industry, something that they want to search for? We'll use this as like a live session, working session. Just throw out anything, like any kind of job, any kind of location.
Environmental studies, someone says in the chat.
Okay, so we're gonna do okay. Can we do environmental studies specialist? Is that cool? Okay, so just with 3 words, we've got just shy of 3,000 results. And you can see, you know, it's all over the place. We got stuff in Virginia, we got stuff in Pennsylvania, California, it's all over. So this is a little overwhelming. So we want to cut this down. And that's when our filters really come into play. So you had mentioned experience level. So we do have a filter for that. We're going to go entry level, show results. Okay, I've still got 2,000 results. But you can see that there are entry level roles. But, you know, if you I just want to see like director level. Now we're only looking at 29 results, right? So again, using the filters, great way to really fine tune the results. I don't like the fact that there's 2,000 results here. So I want to work remotely. And I also want to work, let's see, I wanted to find, location. So where is, I don't want to work in Arizona. Let's say I did though. Then now, like I've whittled my results down to just 1. So this might be a little too restrictive, but you get a sense of how you can tailor what you get shown as far as like job opportunities. Right, so this is like environmental studies jobs that are entry level, that are also remote, and that are also based in Scottsdale, Arizona. That's how specific you can get. So we've got, miraculously, we've got 1 role that's open. And if I wanted to apply, I'd click apply. And then in this case, they're taking me to the company's page. So the company decides if they want to use the easy apply feature. So this would take me to the company page, and then I would follow their process for applying to the role. So I'm going to go back, actually. I'm going to reset all my filters. And then, yeah. Other questions? Oh, that's what it is. So here you can change your filter. So can someone give me a global location where they want to work? What are some like cool places that people want to work?
Paris.
Paris. Okay, so we can start with Paris. Let's do the Greater Paris Metropolitan Region, and then let's say someone wanted to do marketing. Okay, I'm going to search. Okay, so marketing roles in the Greater Paris region, we've got 18,000 jobs that showed up. That's a lot. That's a lot. So let's say that we've got a specific company in mind, right? So let's say I want to work at Pinterest. I want to work in their Paris office. Now we've got 4 results. Okay. All of these are in France. I happen to have a friend that works at Pinterest, not in the Paris office, but you can see that how flexible the search tools are. So I wanted to call that out. I'm going to take this filter off, and then we go back to our 18,000 results. Let's say I do want to work remotely, but eventually I want to get to Paris. Now we're dealing with like 200 results. So that's a little bit about job search. I also want to show you a feature of how you can prepare for job interviews if there are no questions about the search functionality before I move to that. Because I'm looking at time. We've got about 7 minutes left.
Just 2 comments about some things I learned from the demo from our first call that I think are valuable. Mm-hmm. I want to point out that students can create their well, this isn't to the search, it's more their profile, but their profile in various languages.
Yes.
And then there was one other thing. What was it? Well, that's one of the main pieces there that I wanted to remind students, because that was a relatively new feature.
Yeah, that's a good call out. So what Paul is talking about is here you can create a different version of your profile. I just did this for like demo purposes in Spanish. And then you can toggle back and forth between the two. So if you're applying to a role in Spain and it requires Spanish language, it would be a good idea to share the URL to the Spanish version of your profile. And we give you the ability to do that.
And then the other thing too, before we close up and before you finish your last words, is one thing that was helpful on our last presentation, especially for students who were just getting started on their profile, maybe didn't have a lot of connections, was to share your link in the chat box to start connecting with other students. So if you would like to share your LinkedIn link and you want people to add you, it's totally optional, but feel free to type that into the chat box as we're finishing up the presentation.
Yeah, and I'll throw mine in there too if folks want to connect with me. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about interviewing and a tool that you'll have access to. So if you go back to jobs, then if you click on, so again, you can set alerts. If you go to more, we have this really cool tool called Interview Prep. Actually, there's 2 tools here. One is a resume builder where we can take your LinkedIn profile and like spit it into a resume format magically. So for example, create from profile. It's making me do, well, I'm gonna skip this for now. But okay, there you go. So we can take your profile and then weave it into this like resume format. And then you can save it as a PDF and then you can upload that to like job applications. But I want to go back to jobs and then I want to go to more and we'll go to interview prep because this is pretty cool. One of my favorite features. So students, and actually a lot of people, students or otherwise, struggle with interviewing. So talking about yourself, it can be awkward, it can be embarrassing, it can be intimidating, right, to tell your story. And so we've created this feature where we have a lot of like sample frameworks that you can use for popular questions. Like, for example, this is a popular question. Tell me one of your strengths, right? We tell you why employers ask this. We show you some sample answers, and then we also show you a framework, for example.
Hey, my name is Gene Finley, and I'm a senior manager here at LinkedIn. I want to help you come up with an effective answer to what is your greatest strength. Now, this might seem like an easy question, but it's really not. You don't want to come off as arrogant. You don't want to come off as braggadocious. What you want to do is sound humble, and there are some things that you can do, some tips that you can employ to have an effective answer.
Okay, so you get the idea. So we've got these frameworks that you can use. We've got tips, and then we also have, so we got greatest weakness, why should we hire you? That stumps a lot of people. So loads and loads and loads of like general questions. And then we've got questions that are specific to certain industries. So if you want to become an accountant, or you want to go into corporate finance or marketing, right? We've got different questions that are specific to those industries. One thing I wanted to point out, and this is a great way to engage with your network, is that let's say you want to practice, right? You're going to go for an interview and you want to practice with your network, which is safe, before you start going into the company's office. So you can, for this answer, you can practice. You can write a response, right? So let's say this is my sample answer to this question. I'm awesome. I don't know, something like that. So you can save that. And then you can request feedback from people in your network. So I click request feedback, and then I can choose people in my network who I would send that sample answer to, and they can make comments on it and let me know like, hey, you might want to change this, you might want to change that, or this looks good, this sounds good. So you can do it in writing, and then you can record a video of yourself giving a sample answer to that question, share the video with people in your network, and then they can give you comments on your video and how you perform in that video. So I love this tool. I think it's amazing, and I encourage you. We didn't have this. I'm going to sound like an older gentleman, but we didn't have this when I was your age. So I would definitely take advantage of this feature.
And Ellison, can you just confirm that that's part of the free version of LinkedIn as well?
The practice part is free. The sample answers is the premium version, but the ability to record yourself, to write your answers, to practice that's all included with the basic membership, and as well as the framework. That's also included with the standard version.
Great. We have 1 minute left, so I want to open it up in case anyone has any last minute questions that they want to have answered before we leave. I see some folks popping their LinkedIn profiles down there in the chat, so I'm not going to close this right away in case you want to copy them. Thank you so much, Ellison. I always learn a lot when you're participating. Last chance for questions, folks.
I do have a quick question. So since we are still students, would you suggest us to try to apply for like interviews anyway before we graduate?
Yes. Yes, asterisk. I think it depends on the role that you're applying to. And, if they want just someone fresh out of school and you don't have to have any kind of professional experience, like that's fine. Some roles, even for entry level, will want you to have some type of work experience, even if it's an internship or part-time or volunteer. So I would say check the job posting, see what they're asking for. And yeah, I applied for roles when I was still in school so that when I graduated, I had something lined up. So you can definitely do that.
And Ellison, I'm sure there's also internship opportunities that folks can get connected to through the work as well.
We have tons of internships posted on the site, and you can add that to one of your filters, actually.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, I think we're good. Is that the last question?
I think so.
All right.
So we did record this session, so we will share it on the Global Career Development Series page, and encourage you to check that often, sign up for our Global Learning Hub newsletter, and look forward to our Global Learning Conference, which is going to be happening in the end of April.
All right. Well, thanks
Thank
everyone for joining, and good luck with your job search. I look forward to seeing all the cool things you're going to do in your careers and on LinkedIn. And yeah, feel free to shoot me an invitation. It usually takes me a few days to respond to them because yeah, things are just busy. So.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, take care.
Bye.